Welcome to Northwoods Kindred. I'm your Goalie Bodvar, and on this channel we discuss everything Asatru Kindred related. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see how we do it in the Northwoods. Welcome back, and in this video we're going to talk about blessing, our tools for ritual and other purposes, our tools that we use in daily life. Maybe we use them for our craft, maybe we use them for our trade. At the end of this video, we're going to do an actual live blessing of some particular products that you might be able to get your hands on so that you can stay connected to the Northwoods Kindred and this Vey indefinitely. Coming up, I asked this as I know that you ladies are the most capable in all the 9 worlds to aid in this transition. Hail Erd, Hail Verdandi, Hail Skald. So since we're going to talk about blessing, I guess the right thing to do is kind of cite some historic examples. Now, we just did a video about blessing of a baby, sprinkling with water and giving them a name. So you can check that video out right here. Now, I can't find any actual examples, any historic examples of the actual physical blessing in ritual of tools and equipment, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So we know from the records that very important items such as swords or shields or a hoff or a ship or a helmet, those things were given names because they were so important to those people. So it's a recent estimation or a recent assumption that if it's important enough to give a name, then it was important enough to sprinkle with water and bless. Whether or not they did it is kind of a matter for academics to debate over, but if you know of a reference where they actually took water and blessed an item, absolutely put that down in the comments. I'd love to, run it down and see what I think of it. But in the meantime, whether or not it's historically accurate, it's something that we do and something that I have done for a very, very long time on my Asatru path, is that I have blessed ritual items, and I have some very interesting stories to tell you about that. Now, on my path, I've always used the opportunity of a Blot or some sort of a ritual to bless my newer tools and weapons and things that I've acquired. Now, sometimes it's kind of really impromptu, and sometimes it's done in the midst of a formal ritual. I'll give some examples. I'll insert some examples here of where we have blessed weapons, or we have blessed a gift as it's transitioning from one hand to another. Those are all real traditional ways to do it. And even some of the larger Asatru groups, when they have their all things in their meetings, they also have blessings of steel and those types of ceremonies. So they're absolutely an integral part of the modern heathen path, is the blessing of tools and equipment. And for those warriors among us, maybe we're not running around with swords and shields anymore. But here's an interesting story where I used an impromptu opportunity to bless my own weapon, and it has a very interesting story about how that weapon served me and then returned to me in time. So here we go with that one. Now, in the year 2000, I was slotted to go to sniper school. I was a young Marine. I was on my 2nd enlistment. I had gotten out for a little while, came back in just for the sniper thing, docked into a platoon, got very little training, and then I was slotted to go to sniper school. So they issued me my equipment for sniper school, my spotting scope, my binos, radio equipment, all the things that you're required to take, as well as, of course, your sniper rifle. So I took the opportunity behind the armory in the woods to just really quick grab a bottle of beer and do a quick blessing and dedicate my sniper rifle. I named it Gunungnir, and I dedicated it to Odin, and I asked that it be used efficiently, effectively, and that it remain in my possession until such time as I let it go. In other words, I was asking that I would graduate to school and that the rifle wouldn't be deissued until I was ready to move on. So this is that rifle. This is that very same rifle. This is the rifle that I took to sniper school. I graduated on my very first pass through the school, and then many, many years later, this rifle found its way back to me. There's a really, really good chance that I'm the only Marine sniper alive today who possesses the weapon that he actually took to school. And I'll give you the story. The story is that Right after I graduated school, the Marine Corps was in the process of adopting a new sniper rifle, the M40A3. So as soon as I graduated from school and went back to my unit, I didn't even consider the fact that I dedicated it, so I didn't undo that. So I turned it into the Armory, and I went about my business in my platoon as a new sniper team leader. I was issued an M40A3 rifle, and I commenced to, of course, dedicate that rifle for our upcoming deployment. Now, this rifle got shipped back to Headquarters Marine Corps and decommissioned, along with all the other M40A1 sniper rifles in the entire Marine Corps arsenal. It just so happened that the one particular rifle that they took off the shelf and they gave it to Macmillan as a thank you for all of Macmillan's help in developing the rifles in the first place from Vietnam moving forward. So that hung in the Macmillan factory. They used this rifle to build a replica rifle that Macmillan sold for a long period of time, a replica M40A1 sniper rifle. And then after a while, Macmillan was cleaning house at their factory, and they had mentioned this to a mutual friend of ours that they were going to donate this to the Marine Corps Museum, and which, you know, they got all that stuff in the museum already. It would have just been one more gun there. But he said, well, I know the owner of that gun. It's got his name on the stock because it's still got the same paint job and everything on it that I had at sniper school. So Macmillan contacted me and said, do you want your old gun back? I'm like, yeah, I want my old gun back. So they mailed it to me. It's demilled. It's not functional anymore. They actually they just mill a hole right in the receiver. So it's unfunctional. There's no way to fix it unless you replace so many parts that it's not even the same gun anymore. But it is still really a cool heirloom, a personal heirloom, that I own the rifle that I went to school with. Now, forward, after my first deployment in Iraq, I was there during the invasion. That other rifle, my M40A3, was of course issued to someone else. I moved on to a different duty station, etc. It was in the Armory. It got reissued to someone else. I happened to know the person it was issued to, and he took it back to his deployment in Iraq. Again, I forgot to or did not bless it. You know, I didn't undo the blessing that I asked, which was that it only be used by my hand, to be used to, you know, to preserve life, the life of my brothers and sisters, and damn be to the enemy. And so that was the case. Well, that rifle made its way back into country. It ended up, the owner of that rifle ended up in an ambush on a rooftop, got separated from the rifle, and then they ended up having to call in artillery and destroy the building, and the rifle was on the rooftop. So that rifle was never actually fired in combat by anyone but me, and it was destroyed because I didn't do my due diligence and undo that blessing. So whether you want to call it UPG or whatever, it's absolutely something we do nowadays. It absolutely has value. The gods are listening. They pay attention, and blessing of a piece of equipment or a tool is 100% valid and useful. And I am living proof of that. Moving on. So whether you believe in it or not, it is a valuable resource that we have as heathens to be able to put those blessings on our tools, and it makes us more connected to them. Now, there's no requirement to bleed on it or other bodily fluids, as I've heard people do, but there is a process to it. And if you feel like you need to blood it or whatever, that's 100% your decision to do. I don't personally do that, but the process that I use is we'll always use, whether it be in a formal ritual or a more relaxed setting, we'll always ask that the Norns clean and purify this, and we'll use a water for the Norns to bless, sort of like you would expect from a baptismal. We would use that water, and we use that water to purify and cleanse, because we don't know what that item went through before it got to us. Even if we created it, we don't know what the raw materials went through before we built the tool or the equipment. So it's always nice to just clean it off, get a good clean slate, and it just has to be a water sprinkled, just like you would do with a young child. Once it's been water sprinkled, it's cleaned and purified. Now you will just ask the gods to infuse it with the intent that you're asking for, whether it be luck or healing or whatever your goal is for that tool, whether it be your blacksmith hammer and you want it to make, you know, amazing equipment, you know, whatever your goal is, you want to ask the gods to infuse it with that. Now, in this case, see, we're going to do this blessing, and we're going to do it right here in Ave. Now, this is a dedicated space. Since we're not actually doing a full bloat with people in attendance, just kind of more of a solo thing, and the whole purpose is to bless these items, then I don't have to open the circle because it's really technically always dedicated. Now, when we have a bloat and we have people, I always open the circle again, even though I'm not required to, and you can watch this video here and I talk more about that. But I want to make sure that when I have guests here, I go through the entire process. For one, it's the routine and the ritual of it, and for two, it gives them an opportunity to witness it, so in time they can learn it and do it themselves. But we're not going to do that today because it's not really required, because this space is dedicated solely for this purpose. Now, once a year at Charming of the Plow, since we're not farmers, we have our kindred and any of our guests bring the tools of their trade so we can do one big overall blessing. Check that video out right here, and then you can see what we do to bless tools in a formal ritual. So, and then here's a little example of where here in formal ritual for the kindred, I actually blessed some of my kinsmen's ritual tools for their own stead, sort of infusing it with the same energies that we have in our tools here that we use religiously at the Northwoods. So we could kind of spread that same energy around between all of our steads and really connect us together. Now, very much like we do when we're blessing a space, we're going to use a smudge. It's well documented that smoke and fire were used as purification rituals for cultures all over the world. I have my own special smudge that I mix up from raw materials, and it works really well for us. So I use a smudge to kind of purify the air and the space around, almost as a protective bubble, and then I will sprinkle with water that we've had blessed by the Norner so that they can purify the history of the items going into it. And then once the item's history is purified and the area is purified by the smoke, then we will ask whomever, whichever god or goddess or deities that we're invoking for this purpose, we'll ask them to infuse this with the blessings that we're asking for. It's actually, I'm making it sound more complicated than it is, but I'll do a really good example in a moment when we bless a batch of oath rings that are going to be available on our website. Link below. Ultimately, in whatever way speaks to you, the goal is to purify and get rid of the old nasty. Purify, cleanse, we'll do that with blessed water, and then we'll bless it. And with the blessing is important because it is a mini bloat. So we're not going to invoke a god or invite a god and ask them to bless these tools and not offer them something in return. So it is a bloat in that respect. We will offer mead or whatever you find an appropriate offering. I don't consider the burning of incense and candles to be an offering. I think they're necessary. I think they're part of the communication process, but I don't think that they in themselves is an offering, no matter how much effort and time and money you spent on it. But that's just me. So if you feel like that's enough offering, go for it. But I've had really good results with the way that I do it, which is to purify, to cleanse, and to bless. And when I bless, I offer mead or something else that I find will be of value to the god or goddess that I am asking to do the blessing for me. So without getting too long-winded in it, let's look at the materials and the tools that I have laid out for the blessing of these special oath rings, and then we can move into the actual ritual of it. Come on. Now, primarily we're going to have our items that are to be blessed. And what we have here is we have two different styles of oath rings, and then we're going to end up having to go through this ritual again because I'm still working on, these are my double wolf heads, my Frecky and Jerry. These are my Sleipnir horse hooves, and I'm still working on finding a good supplier that I trust that has a good quality product on the double Raven's Head, Hugin and Munin. So we'll find those later, and we'll go through this ritual again when that happens. So for starters, you're going to need the item that is to be blessed, whatever it is, ritual tools, weapons, equipment, anything you have right here. You're going to have your items laid out and ready to go. We're going to use a charcoal and a smudge. Now this smudge is my own proprietary smudge, and you know what? I'll make a couple of like 1 ounce bags of this available if you really want to purchase it off of my website. I'll leave that available to you as well. But we'll use a burning charcoal and a smudge. The next item we're going to use is, we have our water, which will be purified, and we have some herbs and some flowers in it. So some of the flowers are just really basically for a connection here to our own space. That way your space or your item is connected to our space here where it was done. We also have some yarrow for the physical and mental healing properties that it has in it. We have a little bit of rose petal for the luck and the healing energy that the rose provides. And they have been purified in the sun. They've been sitting out here for a while and letting the sunlight also purify them internally and externally. So our first goal is going to be to smudge and cleanse, and then we're going to make an offering. I have mead, the boli, and the horn. Now the horn is because I will also ingest that offering just as I would in a bloat, because I'm doing essentially a solo bloat, and I shouldn't offer to the gods and say, this is good, this is my offering to you, if I'm not willing to ingest it myself. I'm not going to offer the gods a nice cooked up piece of carrion that I wouldn't eat myself. I'm not going to offer the gods food, beverage, or anything else that I myself won't consume. So this is me saying that I can consume this, sort of like offering a drink to a king. Maybe he's going to want you to drink it first so that you're not poisoning him. So it's a communion, it's a commonality between us and the gods, is that we're going to ingest it before we offer it, to say that this is good, this is worthy, and this is special. Now I use this feather to spread my smudge over my items, and I also have my ritual hammer here, because the hammer was traditionally used to bless weddings, and anything that really needed to be blessed was blessed with a hammer. So this hammer is used at all times in this vey and in this kindred to bless whatever. So it's always going to be a part of this as well. So that's essentially the ritual. So let's actually perform it. Let's bless these tools so I can get them listed. So if you want one, you can pick one up. To the beautiful Norns, those special ladies who come visit us at the birth of a child, who order the lives of men, who decree when we come to be and when our time has come to pass. Those who decide our past, our orlog, and all that shall be, who weave the lives of men. I ask that you join me here, that you lend me your aid in cleansing these tools of ritual, these tools of the folk, that they may be free and clear of whatever past they have in materials, in construction, in transportation, so they do not absorb any energies or deeds, good or bad, of those who came in contact with them before now. I ask this as I know that you ladies are the most capable in all the 9 worlds to aid in this transition. Hail Erd, Hail Verdandi, Hail Skald. In the name of the Norns, Erd Verdandi and Skald, I ask that you purify the air around these tools, that they may receive the blessings of the gods, that they may be used for right and healing, and all that is good in the Asatru community. Hail the Norns. I ask that the Nornir help me in blessing these tools. Rinse away their past. Let them be used in the name of healing and frith and kinship and all that is good and right in the Asatru community, never to be used to gatekeep or oppress. Odin, I ask that you come join me, that you accept this offering of mead, your favorite food. I ask that you bless these tools so that those who receive them will know that they represent the good, honest intentions of the folk here in Midgard, that they be used for healing, that they be used for oaths, strong words and strong deeds fulfilled. I ask this in the name of the Northwoods Kindred and all that is holy on these sacred grounds. Hail Odin. For Seti, I ask that you join me, God of justice and overseer of oaths, settler of disputes. I ask that you oversee these tools, that oaths sworn be upheld, that whether they be bought for oneself, gifted to friends and family, or any way that they might be used here in Midgard by the sons of men, that the deeds sworn on them be upheld, that they bring healing, that they foster justice, frith, kinship, and in the spirit of inclusivity in Asatru. Hail for Seti. In the name of Almighty Asatru, I ask that you bless these tools. You bless these tools in the name of frith, kinship, and inclusivity in Asatru, that they be used for healing, mentally and physically. Hail Thor. Thanks for sticking around to the very end. These will be available on our website. Obviously, we have a limited quantity, but they'll be there, and then we'll restock and do this again if we have to in the near future. I'll also put a little bit of this smudge if you want to know what it smells like in the Northwoods. Also, you can use it yourself for your own ritual purposes to smudge and bless your own ritual tools. This is the official oath ring of the sworn members of the Northwoods Kindred. So whenever they have their naming or their name fastening, this is the same exact gift that we give to our members when we have that particular ceremony that you might have seen in other videos. May all of your oaths be just, your promises kept, and your honor clean until the Norns your fate fulfill. Thor Vigi.